Ooh, I love that song. Def Punk with One More Time here on the Brightside. Good morning to you. And one more time, we have on every gorgeous Monday our very gorgeous happiness scientist, Sha-En. She's not one time now, but 2-time TEDx speaker. Alrighty. And she's been sharing with us, talking about really key issues that's relevant to everyone. And for this morning, it is about procrastination. Now, remember, we will head on over to Facebook Live in just a second. And there, if you chime on in, send us questions or comment, it might just win you this amazing prize from Boutique. It's a facial treatment worth $420. So, hey, make sure you chime on in.
So, Sha-En, I feel this is something that afflicts all of us in probably various different ways. But maybe you can explain procrastination, and then those of us listening will be like, oh yeah, that is me. What exactly is procrastination?
Yeah, procrastination is the habit of delaying an important task. We have so many of those. And usually we focus on things that are less urgent, more enjoyable, and things that are easier to do.
Oh, guilty.
Right.
Guilty.
Yeah. Because it feels good, right? To do the
Big
easier
time.
things, the fun things. Yeah.
I can't even look you in the face because that's me.
And the thing is, sometimes we do it even when we know there are consequences to face. Then we don't do it.
But why? Why do we do that? Why do we feel we'll take the easier? I guess is it just that because it's easier to not do
one
those
thing
tasks?
is that we are definitely pleasure-seeking creatures. We like pleasure, and of course, with the delayed gratification or instant gratification, shall I say, we want to pursue that pleasure now. And then, even though we know that if we do the big thing now, we'll also feel good, but it takes longer time to get there. And then probably there's a little more effort, there's more pain. Then we're like,
oh, that's really interesting. I didn't think
Yeah.
that, procrastination, where you're kind of like dragging things out, not getting to it, is actually linked to the idea of instant gratification. That's why we choose not to do certain tasks. Interesting.
yeah, and that's the emotional side of procrastination. People always think that procrastination is a time management issue. Have you
Right.
heard of that?
Yes.
Come for the time management
Yeah.
workshop. And then they'll talk about procrastination. But honestly, it is an emotional management issue. There's always emotions tied to that task that you don't want to do. It's either you're scared of doing it, or you find boredom doing it, or you just don't believe in doing it. All of these are emotions. And so if there are emotional issues, then you are most likely to tell yourself, that's too hard to do. That's a thought, right? That's your cognition.
Oh my goodness.
So it's avoidance of having to
Yes.
confront something like that.
Yeah, sometimes it's avoidance. Some of us who are perfectionistic, which we talked about last week, will say that I can't do it perfectly in these conditions.
So I won't do it.
Yes, correct. Like, exercise, right? Wake up, today, my back pain. So then I don't because it doesn't feel great.
So
But really, my back was pain.
this is familiar because today
Yeah.
in What's Your Type, we were asking what people do for fitness routine. So one of my resolutions for the 48th year of my existence is to get back to some kind of fitness, and I constantly procrastinate on this. I've been pushing this back further and further.
Yeah, and that's why it's called a habit.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, and hopefully we can give some insights to Shehzad, maybe help him along as he kickstarts this
just me, just
healthier
me.
lifestyle. No, I said my back pain. I already said my back pain. So we're going to hop on to Facebook Live. Join us there, alrighty?
Times greatest hits.
Hello, guys. Here on our Facebook Live, we are joined in the studio with our gorgeous happiness scientist. I've always loved that title. Do you love it?
I love
You came up with it. You're the only one in Singapore, I think also around the world.
Yes.
I think so. Sha-En is here, and she's talking to us about procrastination. So quite interesting. I feel like everything is just kind of falling into place, right, Shehzad? So Shehzad's What's Your Type for this morning, he chose is about fitness regime, right?
Yeah.
And you're saying that you've been procrastinating on this?
Big time.
Help
Especially
him, Sha-En.
since the pandemic as well. I kind of went into like, we're stuck at home, can't really go out, can't do this, can't do that. And I thought, I'll just do it another day. And I just haven't, I piled on the pandemic weight.
Yes.
And I haven't.
we call it the pandemic pounds.
Yes, the pandemic pounds. Exactly.
Pandemic pounds. I like that
I
title.
hadn't heard that before. Yes, you're right.
So how can, I'll confess. I still have a backache, but going to exercise, I do procrastinate on that. What can we do, Sha-En?
I think it's to recognize that there are no perfect conditions. That's one. So if perfectionism is the reason why you are procrastinating, then we need to go deeper and ask ourselves,
Yeah, I wish I could say
what
that.
is around that, right?
That was my problem, but no. I'm just a procrastinator.
Yeah, and because we give so many excuses, then we need to question and challenge those excuses. Is it really true that today is really not a good day to start?
Okay.
You know what I mean? And of course, we can break, because there's a cycle. When you do the easy thing, it's a reward. When there's a reward, your brain is happy. It's dopamine hit.
Yeah.
So we need to break that cycle,
Okay.
right? And say like, okay, let's break down.
Yeah.
Make something pleasurable about your fitness regime. What could you pair something together to make it pleasurable? And of course, think about the positive outcome that you're going to experience.
Oh, I can definitely picture the outcome. I just wish there was a quicker way to get there.
Yes. And that's why a lot of people, like for example, I don't like running, and I like to walk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I choose walking, and I pair it with a pleasurable activity like listening to podcasts of my favorite podcast hosts.
So
And because of that, I feel more motivated. So it's not again relying on our, I feel how I feel today, right? But it's like, I'm going to have that podcast to keep me company as I walk or run.
Something that you look forward to.
Yes.
So it's a bit like Lavi, who likes to use the elliptical machine in front of the TV.
Yes.
That's something I can kind of empathize with.
So you think it's gonna happen?
The
that's
idea of
one
it's
way.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shehzad just turned 48.
Yes.
Ooh.
Thank you for
Yesterday.
revealing that.
Happy
Yesterday.
birthday.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. No, 48 minus 20.
Yeah. I feel 27.
28.
Yes. Can tell. Yes, you have the vibrancy of a 28-year-old. So we're going to jump back live on air. But hey, for all of those who are tuning in to us on Facebook Live, remember, just chime on in. Have questions, maybe share a comment or two, and it might just win you this $420 facial therapy from Boutique. We'll catch you in just a bit live on 1FM.
So here on 1FM, Milli Vanilli with Girl, you know it's true that we have to get ourselves fit.
Oh, hey! And also get rid of procrastination. Oh my goodness, I'm really guilty about it. I used to think that people used to say like, it's always the hardest to admit to your faults. I admit to it. I am a procrastinator, but that's it lah. I can't get past it. What can we do, Sha-En? Okay, are there signs to look out for in others or even in ourselves that we might be procrastinators and it is a serious problem?
Definitely. I mean, like giving excuses is one, or like saying, I really don't know how to do something, but the person already knows how to do it. Right? Yeah, I see that a lot in sometimes my own kids. It's like, I don't know, but I thought you already, that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Or like, not sometimes a bit blasé about whether it gets done or not, like, denial. So like procrastination, there's active and passive. So like the passive one is like denial. It's like, no lah, I think can it's not so important now. You kind of rationalize it to yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, even though like it's there. And then there's the active one, which is I'm going to leave it all the way because I work better under pressure. I'm going to leave it to the last minute to organize that party.
Does it sound familiar?
Very familiar. I'll be honest, as a student, especially in uni,
Yeah.
I'm not a mugger for months and months. Like you said, I was convinced myself that I was better performing at the last minute.
Or like under high pressure.
Yeah, cramming it in.
Yeah.
And I guess it kind of worked in that way. So because it kind of worked the first few times, I thought, well, I'll just keep doing it.
Yeah.
But the stress you put yourself under for those deadlines or for exams, it's not something I would recommend.
Yeah, there's only so much coffee can do, right?
Yeah, and that's why procrastinators, like you ask what's the issue with that, is that it creates high levels of stress and anxiety, and there's this loop. I don't do something, I get anxious. If I ignore it, I get more anxious. And then it piles up until that last minute, and then I get super anxious. And yes, that adrenaline can help you get it done, but then you get hooked to that. Right?
So that's what I wanted to say. You got a high, especially, by the way, if you did well out of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then it's a
man,
reinforcing
see,
loop
I did it.
again.
Oh, this is good.
Yeah.
So I convinced myself this is how I like studying. And because the results were pretty decent at the time, I thought, well, I'll just keep doing it this way.
I feel like this is a really big revelation for many people.
Yeah.
Because, I'm guilty of that too. It sounds so familiar now that you've broken it down.
Yeah.
We're going to jump back onto our Facebook Live and talk a little bit about, are there different stages to procrastination?
Yes, absolutely.
We will find out more from Sha-En in just a bit. So join us on our Facebook Live. Remember, it might just win you that wonderful facial treatment from Boutique that is worth $420. Hey everybody!
Hello.
How are we doing? And of course, yes, we are talking about procrastination. Yeah, very, very guilty. So we're here with Sha-En. She is our happiness scientist. And procrastination, is it just a simple thing of, we talked about what it actually is? Are there different stages to it? Does it help to know?
Yeah, I mean, first you have an irrational belief, right? That deters you. Like, I'm going to be able to get it done, even though it probably takes a much longer time.
Shehzad, you
Okay.
chuckle.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar?
So familiar.
It sounds familiar to me, just so you know.
Oh,
yeah, I'm not in the right state right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's denial is the first stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like irrational beliefs, right? Okay. Number 2 is the relief and enjoyment that you don't have to do the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, I don't need to work on that essay now. I don't need to go and talk to her and have that difficult conversation now.
It's like, I don't have to do it for the next 10 minutes.
Yes,
but even then, it's
correct.
still so shook. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
correct. And that's
Terrible.
addictive. But then after that, it's that impending doom that kicks in when you don't get it done.
It's that gnawing feeling at the back of
Yeah.
your head that you fight really hard to just lock away.
Yes. Yes.
But you know it's there.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and then you start to feel bad.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
you feel the guilt start to set in.
Okay.
Like sometimes you even condemn yourself. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, I know that's important. Like, I'm such a failure. And then it becomes this negative loop, right? It's like, I'm a failure. Now I didn't get up and do my exercise today. I'm a failure.
Yeah.
But actually, it started with an irrational belief. That,
I
today I got a
see.
toe pain, so I'm not going to.
But my toe really pain.
And I
Like my
literally
back.
said that to myself a few days ago, right?
You can tell
Do you convince yourself?
Yes, yes.
Man, this is like the 6
And it's
stages
very
of grief.
easy to give in, right?
Yeah, it is. You really okay. You become a little bit delusional in that sense, right?
I mean, yeah, because you're in denial for so long. And that's
Yeah.
why when we define procrastination, we say it's a habit. Because these habits are set in stone, which is why people find it so hard to kick
Break
the
it.
habit.
Right.
Because once you're in that loop, right, there's a trigger that reminds you of something, there's the action, and then there's a reward. So
Okay.
if the second stage of the reward kicks in very quickly, then you're in this loop, no? How to break the habit.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah,
So those
correct.
there are how many? 4 stages? No, 3 stages.
Yeah, 3 stages.
3 stages. Oh, but they're all very, very scary. I'm guilty of
They're
all of
related.
them.
So Sha-En, what do we do to break out of this cycle? What do we do to break out of these stages?
Yeah, so first of all, since it starts with beliefs, we need to challenge those beliefs. Like I said earlier, we question first and don't accept them as truths. So for example, I must do it perfectly.
Okay.
Yeah, then we'll say like, who said that we must do it perfectly? What does perfect mean?
This goes
Yeah,
back
if
to your
I-
perfectionism thing.
Yeah,
that we
if let's say that
yeah.
is the reason, and of course there are different types of procrastination. Like for example, there's the dreamer
right.
who puts off tasks. Like I'm quite a dreamer, right? I'm like, I put off tasks because you're not good at paying attention to detail.
Right.
So like for example, when it comes to anything to do with numbers, I'll be like, I'm not good with numbers. But again, these are things that we need to question. Are you really not good at numbers? Or is it that it's just something you don't want to do? Like you have to be honest with yourself, right?
We're
Yeah.
going to find out more. This is interesting that there are actually different types of procrastination. We're going to
Yes.
jump back on air. Join us then as we take you through them with Sha-En. I gotta say, I love that song. That was Stop by the Spice Girls, and also Stop Procrastinating. You couldn't tell, right, where I was going with that
I
whole
knew.
thing. Yes. You good, Layusha. All right, so we're talking to Sha-En, our happiness scientist, and it's all about procrastination. So we mentioned on Facebook Live that there are 3 stages to procrastination.
Yes.
It was denial.
First is the irrational
Irrational
belief that
belief.
begins, and then the relief or enjoyment from not doing that thing. And last of all is the guilt.
Okay,
Guilt
and
trip, yeah.
then we went into the different types of procrastination. You're going through the first one, which is
The dreamer.
okay.
Yeah, so the dreamer is like puts off tasks that they're not good or because they think they're not good at paying attention to details. Yeah, so that's me, right? I'm a big picture person. I got lots of ideas.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to actually doing it and then like, I'm going to do that thing, right? So that's the first one. Second one, we talked about perfectionist, the
Right.
one who must always, who has a fear of not getting the task done perfectly.
Right.
Okay.
It must always look like this, 90 degrees, everything, when you set up a party stand, everything must be sweet, that kind. Okay, and then there's the defier. Nobody must control my time. I will do it my way. You give me deadline, I'm not going to do.
I'll work within my own deadlines.
Yes, that's right.
I see.
Yeah.
Is it possible for one person to be, to have different types of procrastination? Because
Yeah,
sometimes I feel like I'm a dreamer.
It's also
Other
context
times,
or task dependent.
You're one of the others.
right?
Yeah,
Depending
depends
on the
what,
task.
yes,
Yeah.
depending
That's
on
good.
what needs to be done, right?
Ah.
Obviously. Then there's the worriers, like, I'm scared to change lah. So I
Right.
think I just going to put it off because if I change next time, I don't know what's there. There's
Oh.
uncertainty,
The
there's
unknown.
unknown.
Yeah.
The worrier. Yeah.
Does that sound familiar as well?
It's like, wait, I got all, oh no.
Oh no. But I think that's normal though. I
Yeah.
think people would exhibit all four types.
Yeah.
The big question now, how do we overcome
Yeah,
procrastination?
great. So yeah, I mean, challenge, we talked about that. Second, because it's an emotional management issue, we learn to manage our emotions. So when we get anxious that things are not done perfectly, when I look at my numbers and I think I'm bored, so we need to manage those emotions, right? And like really, if you're anxious, then you take those deep breaths. If you're bored or you're worried, then either talk it out, write it out, get it out of your system, and then you realize that once you manage the emotion, then you get clarity over what is the real issue here. Otherwise, you're just going to do it, and
Do
then
it
you
again.
don't believe in it, and then you're just going back into that loop, which is not helpful. Yeah.
So one thing I do, Sha-En, is I tend to make lists, and I like to tick off that list of items to do.
Yes, that's
However,
helpful too.
I put some very easy things like have breakfast or wake up. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's things as simple as that.
Yeah.
So just so I can feel I'm achieving something.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a kind of
But
good
it-
idea. Yeah.
The harder ones, they're at the bottom of the list or they don't get ticked for a while. But I still say, hey, I've done 8 out of 10 things so far. I feel quite good about this.
Yeah, but it's always the last two that go
Yeah.
from the list to the next list to the next list. I
Yes.
say this because that's me.
You also have lots of lists.
because for a long time I was supposed to record some videos, and although I like coming on radio, I can show up in front of an audience anytime. But like speaking on video and talking to nobody,
Yeah.
it's sometimes very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So again, I need to face that discomfort and ask myself, like, why am I uncomfortable? What could make it more interesting? Could I think of something else while I'm doing it? So I got on radio. I did a video last week, and I thought about the people who would benefit from listening to that, and then I got outside of myself.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so we need to face that belief. We need to manage that emotion, and yes, sometimes we need lists, but also be mindful that those lists aren't just like lists for the sake of, right?
So if I could just summarize, I think that's a really great takeaway that procrastination is an emotion-based problem. And if we are real about that and we can admit to that,
Yeah.
and then it's about, finding your own thing that makes you happy out of the whole thing. What is your motivation? Like how you
Yeah.
wanted to make a video, how is it going to benefit and how it will benefit other people. I think we might just be able to beat
And then make your own
procrastination.
reward. Make your own reward by giving yourself a pat on the back. Celebrate that you actually managed to get over your procrastination hump, because we beat ourselves up when we don't do it, but we don't celebrate when we do it.
Okay.
So we need to reverse the loop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Sha-En, thank you so much.
Yeah,
really
it was
great tips
really
there.
helpful.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
The reward part is echoing with me.
Yes.
So thank you all for finding out more about procrastination. We'll see you again next Monday. Hey, Sha-En.
Thanks, Sha-En.
Awesome.
Good times. Greatest hits. 1FM 90.